Today we're going to be looking at the amusement parks that weren't built by Disney, Six Flags, or major entertainment companies. They were built by streetcar lines. And many of them existed because transit companies had one strangely specific problem. Nobody was riding the streetcar on Sundays. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, electric streetcars were transforming American cities. They carried workers downtown, connected growing neighborhoods, and allowed people to live farther away from factories and commercial districts. Streetcar companies spent enormous amounts of money building tracks, installing electrical systems, purchasing vehicles, and maintaining entire networks. During the work week, these systems could be packed with commuters. But on weekends, especially Sundays, ridership often dropped. The tracks were still there, the streetcars were still available, the electrical systems were still running, but far fewer people were paying to use them. So the streetcar companies came up with a clever solution. Instead of waiting for people to find somewhere to go, they would build the destination themselves. At the outer ends of their routes, streetcar companies began purchasing inexpensive land. These locations were often outside the crowded city, near rivers, lakes, forests, or open countryside. At first, the attractions were simple. A company might create a picnic grove, walking paths, a small restaurant, or a covered pavilion. Families could board a streetcar in the city, travel to the end of the line, and spend the afternoon outdoors. But competition between streetcar companies caused these destinations to become increasingly elaborate. Picnic grounds gained dance halls gained live music, then came swimming pools, theaters, carousels, Ferris wheels, and eventually roller coasters. These places became known as trolley parks. The business model was simple. The park gave people a reason to travel. The passengers bought streetcar tickets. The streetcar delivered them directly to the park. Then, after spending money on food, games, and rides, they paid for another trip home. The amusement park did not always need to be highly profitable on its own. Its main purpose was often to increase ridership on the railway. For working-class families, trolley parks provided an affordable escape from crowded industrial cities. You didn't need to own a horse or carriage, and decades before widespread car ownership, you didn't need an automobile. All you needed was the price of a streetcar fare. The journey itself became part of the experience. Passengers would board in a dense neighborhood filled with brick buildings and factories. As the streetcar traveled farther from downtown, the scenery gradually changed. Buildings gave way to trees, fields, lakes, and open land. Even if the park was only a few miles away, it could feel like leaving the city entirely. At night, many trolley parks became even more impressive. Streetcar companies were often closely connected with electric utility companies. The same electricity powering the streetcars could also illuminate the park. Thousands of light bulbs were placed along pathways, around pavilions, and across roller coasters and entrance buildings. At a time when electricity was still relatively new, these parks must have appeared almost futuristic. Imagine leaving a dark industrial neighborhood and arriving at a glowing landscape filled with music, rides, restaurants, and enormous crowds. The parks were not only advertisements for the streetcar, they were advertisements for electricity itself. One of the most famous surviving trolley parks is Kennywood, near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kennywood opened in 1898 on land connected to the Monongahela Street Railway Company. The location had previously been used as a picnic area overlooking the Monongahela River. The railway company realized that a major attraction at the end of its line could bring in thousands of weekend passengers. Over time, Kennywood added dance halls, swimming facilities, games, carousels, and roller coasters. What began as a transit destination developed into one of the country's most recognizable amusement parks. Unlike hundreds of other trolley parks, Kennywood survived the decline of the streetcar. Today, most visitors arrive by car, but the park's location makes much more sense when you understand the transportation system that created it. Another major example is Dorney Park, near Allentown, Pennsylvania. Dorney Park began as a fish hatchery and recreational property during the 1800s. Visitors came to picnic, fish, and spend time outdoors. But streetcar service helped transform it from a rural recreation area into a major regional attraction. Electric railway connections made the park accessible to residents of Allentown and surrounding communities. As attendance increased, the park added mechanical rides, entertainment venues, food stands, and roller coasters. This pattern repeated across the country. A streetcar line would connect to a quiet picnic grove. The line would bring larger crowds. The larger crowds would justify adding more attractions. Those attractions would then generate even more passengers. In Erie, Pennsylvania, Waldameer grew from a lakeside picnic area into a full amusement park. In Portland, Oregon, Oaks Amusement Park opened in 1905 along the Willamette River. It was developed by the Oregon Water Power and Railway Company to encourage passengers to use its electric rail service. Visitors could ride directly from Portland to a park filled with picnic areas, a dance pavilion, a roller skating rink, and amusement rides. Lakeside Amusement Park near Denver also developed alongside streetcar service. Lake compounds in Connecticut had already existed as a recreational destination, but trolley connections helped make it accessible to a much larger urban audience. There were trolley parks near Boston, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Detroit, New Orleans, and countless smaller cities. Some became enormous amusement complexes. Others consisted of little more than a carousel, a dance pavilion, and a wooded picnic area. But they all followed the same basic strategy. Build something attractive at the end of the railway, and people will pay to travel there. Trolley parks also influenced the physical growth of American cities. Streetcar companies and their owners often controlled land along their routes. By extending a railway toward a park, they made the surrounding property more accessible and more valuable. At first, the streetcar might pass through empty fields on its way to the amusement park, but over time, houses, shops, and neighborhoods could appear along the tracks. The oldest sections of the park may still reflect a layout designed for people arriving by rail instead of by automobile. Trolley parks reveal how transportation can shape entertainment, development, and culture. Streetcar companies needed more passengers, so they created places for people to visit. Those attractions created new travel patterns. The travel patterns encouraged development, and the development helped expand American cities. In a strange way, the roller coaster was once a transit advertisement. The carousel was a ridership strategy, and the dance hall was an infrastructure investment. These parks were not built only because people wanted entertainment. They were built because streetcar companies wanted to sell more tickets. And that business decision helped create some of America's oldest and most beloved amusement parks. So the next time you visit a historic amusement park, look beyond the rides. Look at where it is located. Look for an old rail corridor, a surviving station, or a road that seems to lead directly toward the entrance. Because there is a good chance the park was never designed for drivers. It was designed for passengers. Passengers who boarded a streetcar in the middle of a crowded city, traveled to the end of the line, and stepped into a world of picnic groves, electric lights, music, and wooden roller coasters. The streetcars may be gone, but in a handful of places, the destinations they created are still running.